Well, in the beginning, so let's go to the end of the second trial, right?
Yeah.
I'm acquitted on most of the charges. The jury deliberated, and they came back and they acquitted me on everything except for assault and threatening. There was one lady who held out and could not put not guilty. The jury actually tried to get that woman off of the jury in the middle of the second trial, but the judge would not let them. They said that she was biased and not working with the jury and talking and deliberating with the jury. So that one lady was the holdout on those last two charges. I was acquitted on everything else. So I had these two charges left hanging, and I was freed. The judge, out of nowhere, decides that we should be released to a halfway house and then to pretrial detainment, right? Which is just house arrest, basically. And so I get home, back to Idaho, and I learned that there is a group, an organization that had been working on getting our legislature to act in some way, my state legislature, to speak out at the very least as to what was happening, because I was possibly facing a third trial is the situation, right?
Oh, geez.
And so at that time, what turned out to happen was 53 of our state legislature signed a letter asking that the federal government look at this, and they believed that a miscarriage of justice was occurring. That letter went to the congressman at the time, our congressman in Idaho, which was Raul Labrador, and he wrote a cover letter and delivered it to Sessions, Jeff Sessions. And at that point, pretty quickly after that, I was offered a misdemeanor plea agreement instead of a third trial. I took it because I don't have any, I would rather have the misdemeanor and go home and make my kids pancakes and be done with it.
Yeah.
So right before it was about to be finalized, the Las Vegas shooting occurred. That Highway 70 or whatever, Highway 57 or whatever the shooting in Las Vegas downtown at the country music festival thing. And that night, my lawyer contacted me and said, your misdemeanor's off the table. They just pulled it. And I asked why, and he said, I don't know. I think they have a better chance now that everybody's afraid of black guns, big scary assault rifles.
Never let a tragedy crisis go to waste.
A tragedy go to waste.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So they felt like they would probably have a better chance in that environment, and they pulled my misdemeanor plea. They said the only way I was getting a plea agreement and my co-defendant would get the misdemeanor is if I took a felony. So that was their last little attempt at extortion. We told them we don't negotiate with terrorists, and we'll see you for round 3. They realized we weren't bluffing, and they came back with the misdemeanor plea agreement. I signed it, and I went home. So that was kind of my introduction to the Center for Self-Governance, to Mark, through the Idaho chapter. And I ended up talking with Mark and speaking with Mark for his documentaries that he was doing, Dead Man Talking on Lavoie and Harney County and the refuge and stuff.
Which is the documentary, right?
Yes,
yep.
Yes. And really got to kind of know Mark in that process and realize that the things that he was saying I had been working on too, without direct correlation or knowledge, right? But we were both working in the same direction, and we both understood that the better thing that we can do is try to influence policy through policymakers, right? When I got home and I went to the Capitol to thank those people that signed that paper for me, those legislators, and I got a standing ovation from the House floor at the state Capitol. I realized then that I could utilize what had happened to me to influence policy through the policymakers that I had access to now, right? And so I continued to build those relationships, and I continued to network, and I continued to really make sure that those legislators knew the full scope of what had occurred the past 2 years, right? And where I saw the issues. And I started to look at this political sphere. And so I took some of the training from Mark, and it really kind of clicked as to a better way. I founded an organization called the Real 3%ers Idaho. You can go to our website and check us out if you want. But my organization I founded to really to mitigate the chances of another Bundy Ranch situation like in Nevada in 2014. And through that, we get involved early, we investigate, we get our policymakers involved, and we find out where the system is broken, right? And a lot of that goes back to the Center for Self-Governance. I like to think of our organization as out there actually, putting into practice these solid philosophies that Mark lays out. Mm-hmm. And we've been doing that for a couple of years, and it's going well. We watch legislation coming in to our capital, and we look for the type of usurpations and manipulations of law that would lead to federal agencies using it against the people or state agencies too, I should say, using it against the people. And that's really where it starts, right? They claim these authorities through legislation, and then they go out and execute it, and it ends with 500-600 people in a wash with their hands up, and federal agents trained rifles on them and attack dogs and all these things that we don't want to see here in the West.
Definitely. So I've got a question that's kind of in this last couple hours here I've been wondering about. So how do you deal with, it's a little off topic to say, but it's just something that kind of been in the back of my mind, Eric, is how do you deal with the social media, Twitter sphere of just everything that's been negative or said to you, or how do you keep your, head straight with all this and knowing that you're fighting the good fight? Because you can just Google stuff, and you see most of these blue check mark idiots that are saying things that don't really matter anyway. But how do you deal with it, and how would you suggest if someone got themselves in a similar boat for standing up for what they believe in to deal with the publicity?
I think the main thing I try to remember is that they have the average person has no understanding of what's really occurring around them.
Correct. Yeah.
And so if I can come at it from that place of understanding, then I'm usually in a better spot than just wanting to verbally headbutt them. And if I know that they really don't have an understanding, then it's kind of my job, my duty to at least present the truth, and more so it's to not be what they say you are, right? Everybody that follows that line of thinking, that subscribes to that line of thinking, they see that domestic terrorists, dangerous extremists, all these connotations, and when you're reacting with them, you have to come. It causes me to be cool, calm, and collected, because I'm not going to give them the benefit of being what they accuse me of being, which is, chaos and yelling and all these things. People have called for my death. I've got death threats. So at a certain point, I just blow it all off. But really, they threw me off of Facebook, right? I was running for state senate right in the middle of my campaign. They demolished my campaign page and my personal page and my wife's page. No cause, no reason. They said that I was tied to anti-government extremism. And they did. I was right in the middle of a campaign. My campaign page had thousands of people following it. I was, I almost won that campaign by, I brought it to within about 7%. if I would have had that ability, if they wouldn't have taken my tools away like they do, I probably would have won. So, I mean, the censorship and these kind of things, it's going to keep occurring, right? And we have to know that it's going to keep occurring, and we have to be prepared for it and start to look elsewhere, right? I have a Telegram broadcast channel that I put things out on now, and I have, you know, our website that we put things out on now. We can't rely on these social media platforms because it's obvious that they are going to wait for the perfect opportunity and shut us down, everybody down. Anybody too. And I don't want to make it a right or left thing. You know, I mean, if you go back to the federal lexicon, it doesn't matter if you're right or left. If the government deems you a domestic terrorist threat, they have the same play for you. It's the same all around. Exactly, and that's why it doesn't matter. Like you just said, it doesn't matter if you're right or left. You know, generally speaking, every 4 to 8 years, the powers that be change a little bit, but the generic swamp stays the same. So that's why limiting that executive branch's control is so important.
Absolutely,
that's where we have to be.
Hi, my name's Eric Parker. I'm running for state senate here in Idaho. If you'd like to know more about my campaign, go to parkerforidaho.com. You can also follow the campaign on Telegram and on Facebook. We'll put the links in the descriptions below.